Daniel Wright stood tall as he walked into the grand chamber of the Galactic Council. The massive room sparkled with light, bouncing off polished alien metals. Representatives from 200 species sat in rising tiers that surrounded the speaking floor. Some had tentacles, others had multiple eyes, and many had skin colors humans had never evolved. Despite the differences, they all shared one thing: a smug sense of superiority when looking at the human ambassador. Daniel adjusted his formal diplomatic uniform. 50 years of humanity in the Galactic Council, and still they were treated like children who had accidentally wandered into an adult party. He was tired of it. "The human ambassador may address the council," announced Grand Arbiter Zolmek, his gray skin shimmering under the lights. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of boredom that Daniel had learned to recognize. "Esteemed members of the council," Daniel began, his voice firm. 3 days ago, the human colony of New Montana was attacked by Vraxian warships. Over 2,000 human lives were lost. We have video evidence, ship identification, and survivor testimony. Murmurs filled the chamber. Most were not of shock or sympathy, but of annoyance at the human bringing up such matters. "We formally request the Council condemn this unprovoked attack and enforce sanctions against the Vraxian Empire, as outlined in Treaty Section 47. High Chancellor Krell Nar of the Vraxian Empire stood up, his tall, thin body wrapped in ornate armor. "These accusations are ridiculous. Perhaps the humans simply misidentified our research vessels. Or perhaps," his mouth formed what passed for a smile among his species, "their colony was engaging in illegal activities that required inspection." Daniel felt his blood boil but kept his face calm. "We have submitted all evidence to the Council Review Board. The ships were clearly military class. They fired without warning." Grand Arbiter Zolmek raised a hand. "The Council has reviewed the evidence and finds it insufficient for formal action at this time. Further investigation is required." Daniel couldn't believe his ears. The evidence was overwhelming. This was the final straw. In her office at Earth's Interstellar Relations Bureau, Patricia Summers watched the council session through a secure feed. She sighed and picked up her phone. "Madam President, it's happening again. The council is dismissing the New Montana attack." On the other end, President Olivia Mason's voice was tight with anger. "That's the third attack they've ignored this year. Meet me in the crisis room in 30 minutes. Patricia gathered her files and headed to the White House. As she walked through security, she nodded to Admiral John Hunter, who was also arriving. "They've pushed us too far this time," the Admiral said quietly. The crisis room was not the famous Situation Room tourists heard about. It was deeper, more secure, and few knew of its existence. President Mason sat at the head of the table, her face grim. "Ladies and gentlemen, I've asked you here because we face a critical decision." The president looked at each person in turn. "For 50 years, humanity has tried to be a good galactic citizen. We've shared technology, offered aid, and followed the rules. In return, we've been mocked, cheated, and now our people are dying, while the council looks the other way." Admiral Hunter spread several data pads on the table. "Madam President, as you directed 5 years ago, we've been preparing for this possibility. Operation Independent Earth is ready to activate." The Secretary of Defense, Gregory Nash, looked surprised. "You've been planning a withdrawal from the Council?" "Planning for all possibilities," corrected the President. "I hoped we'd never need it." Patricia spoke up. "The Vraxians attacked us because they want the rare minerals on New Montana. They know the Council won't stop them. This pattern will continue unless we change the rules of the game." "What exactly does Operation Independent Earth entail?" asked Gregory. Admiral Hunter activated a holographic display above the table. "First, we recall all humans from Council space. Second, we activate our independent defense network, the one we never registered with the Council. Third, we formally withdraw from all treaties and cut diplomatic ties." Lisa Carter, the chief communications officer, looked worried. "The public reaction will be intense. Many people have built their lives around our place in the galactic community. Better temporary disruption than watching more colonies get attacked, while the Council debates whether our people's lives matter," Patricia replied. The president stood up. I've made my decision. We're withdrawing from the Galactic Council. Effective immediately. Back on Proxima Station, Daniel was leaving the council chamber when a slender alien with blue-tinted skin approached him. Shinlara, the Aurelian representative, had always been more friendly than most. Ambassador Wright, a moment please, she said softly. Daniel slowed his pace. Representative Shinlara. What happened in there was wrong, she whispered. Many of us know it, but the council leadership is deeply corrupt. The Vraxians have bought too many votes. Daniel appreciated her honesty, but it changed nothing. Thank you, but... His communication device buzzed with an urgent message. Reading it, his eyes widened. I must go, he said abruptly. Inside his private chambers, Daniel read the detailed message from Earth. The decision had been made. His new orders were clear. An hour later, Daniel returned to the council chamber and requested an emergency audience. The Grand Arbiter looked annoyed but granted permission. Esteemed members of the Galactic Council, Daniel's voice rang out with new authority. By order of President Olivia Mason and the unanimous vote of the United Earth Government, I am here to inform you that as of this moment, humanity officially withdraws from the Galactic Council and all associated treaties. The chamber erupted in chaos. Some representatives shouted, others laughed as if it were a joke. The Grand Arbiter banged his ceremonial staff for order. Ambassador Wright, surely your government does not understand the consequences of such a rash action. Daniel's face was stone. We understand perfectly. All human diplomats are being recalled from council worlds. All alien representatives on Earth have 72 hours to depart. Earth space is now closed to all council traffic without specific approval. High Chancellor Krelnar stood up, furious. This is absurd. Humans cannot survive without council trade and protection. We managed for thousands of years before we met you, Daniel replied coolly. We'll manage again. As Daniel turned to leave the council chamber for the last time, Shinlara caught his eye and gave a small nod of respect. Aboard his ship returning to Earth, Daniel received a secure transmission from Admiral Hunter. Operation Independent Earth is proceeding on schedule, Ambassador. The Silent Shield is deploying. By the time the Council realizes what's happening, it'll be too late for them to interfere. Daniel looked out at the stars streaking by. They think we're having an emotional tantrum. They expect us to come crawling back within weeks. Their mistake, said the Admiral with a slight smile. They never bothered to learn what humans do when pushed too far. President Olivia Mason stood behind the podium, her posture straight and confident despite the weight of the moment. Cameras broadcasted her image to every corner of human-controlled space, from the crowded cities of Earth to the farthest colony on New Montana. The United Nations Hall was packed with reporters, government officials, and military personnel. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. People of Earth and her colonies, she began, her voice steady. Today marks a turning point in human history. After 50 years of membership in the Galactic Council, Earth has officially withdrawn from all galactic treaties and alliances. Gasps and murmurs spread through the crowd. Though rumors had been circulating, it officially shocked many. This decision was not made lightly, the president continued. For decades, we have been treated as lesser beings. We have shared our technology, our resources, and our goodwill. In return, we have been mocked, exploited, and now attacked without consequence. Screens behind her showed images of the devastation on New Montana, burning buildings, injured colonists, and the unmistakable wreckage of Vraxian warships. When our colony was attacked and our people killed, the Galactic Council refused to act. They called our evidence insufficient, despite clear footage and survivor testimony. This is only the latest example of a pattern that has become impossible to ignore. In her office, Lisa Carter, Earth's chief communications officer, monitored feeds from across the galaxy. The president's speech was being picked up by alien news networks translated in real time. The reactions ranged from amusement to concern. They're not taking us seriously, she told Secretary of Defense Gregory Nash over a secure line. The Zinther News Network is calling it human emotionality, and the council spokesperson just released a statement saying they expect us to reconsider once cooler heads prevail. Gregory nodded grimly. Let them think that. It works in our favor. On the Galactic Council station, Grand Arbiter Zolmek convened an emergency session. The circular chamber hummed with excited conversation as representatives speculated on the human withdrawal. Order. Zolmek's voice boomed across the room. We will discuss the human situation calmly and rationally, unlike our emotional former members. High Chancellor Krelnar of the Vraxian Empire rose to speak, his ornate armor gleaming. The humans are throwing a tantrum, nothing more. They will come begging to return once they realize how dependent they are on our trade networks and protection. Several representatives nodded in agreement. Humans were known for their quick decisions and quicker regrets. Nevertheless, continued Zolmek, we should prepare for potential disruptions. Humans provide 17% of the Council's medical technologies and 23% of our agricultural innovations. There may be temporary shortages. What the Grand Arbiter didn't mention was the encrypted message he had received from Earth's president. The next time we meet, it will be as equals, not as supplicants. Back on Earth, Admiral John Hunter stood in the command center of United Earth Defense Headquarters. The massive orbiting station gave him a clear view of Earth below and the vast darkness of space beyond. Dozens of officers worked at their stations, carrying out the most ambitious military operation in human history. Activate Silent Shield, Hunter commanded. His second-in-command, Vice Admiral Susan Blackwell, entered the authorization code. Silent Shield activating. Deployment at 12% and rising. Across the solar system, hidden installations began powering up. Defensive platforms that had been disguised as mining operations or research stations revealed their true nature. A network of stealth satellites blinked into active status, creating a web of sensors and weapons that spanned from Mercury to beyond Pluto. Deploy the Home Guard fleet, Hunter ordered. On screens around the command center, hundreds of ships appeared from hidden bases on Mars, Europa, and Titan. These weren't the outdated vessels the Council had registered in their databases. These were cutting-edge warships that Earth had been building in secret for years, preparing for this very day. Status of returning diplomatic ships? Hunter asked. All diplomats and personnel will be through the designated safe corridors within. 18 hours, Admiral, reported Susan. The Vraxians are shadowing some of our transports, but they haven't made any aggressive moves. Hunter nodded. They're watching to see how serious we are. Keep all weapon systems on standby, but do not engage unless fired upon. At the Kenya spaceport, the largest on Earth, ships arrived in a constant stream. Human diplomats, business people, tourists and residents who had been living on alien worlds poured back to their home planet. Some looked worried, others relieved, but all carried the same question in their eyes. What happens now? Patricia Summers, Director of Earth's Interstellar Relations Bureau, supervised the operation personally. She approached a family that had just disembarked, a couple with 2 small children who had been living on the alien world of Centauri Prime. Welcome home, she said warmly. I know this transition must be difficult for you. The father nodded. We had a good life there, but lately the atmosphere was changing. Aliens who used to be our friends started treating us differently, especially after the Vraxians attacked New Montana and got away with it. His wife added, when we heard Earth was withdrawing, we weren't surprised. Sad maybe, but not surprised. Patricia helped them through processing and then checked her communication device. A message from an encrypted source caught her attention. Opening it revealed a simple text from Shinlara, her secret ally on the Council. They are underestimating you. Exactly as we hoped. Miles away in the White House, President Mason met with her cabinet. The early reports were positive. The withdrawal was proceeding smoothly with only minor incidents reported. The Council has issued a formal statement, Gregory Nash announced. They express regret over Earth's hasty decision and welcome us back whenever we reconsider. President Mason smiled slightly. They think we'll come crawling back within weeks. Meanwhile, continued Gregory, 7 non-Council worlds have already reached out about forming independent trade agreements with Earth. They've been waiting for someone to stand up to the council. The president nodded. And the Vraxians? Posturing, but cautious. Our show of force with the silent shield activation has them confused. They didn't expect us to have that level of technology. Good, said the president. Let them wonder what else we've been hiding. Outside the Kenya spaceport, Daniel Wright watched the sky as more ships arrived. After delivering Earth's withdrawal message to the council, he had returned home with mixed feelings. 50 years of diplomatic work had ended, but perhaps something better was beginning. His communication device buzzed with a message from Admiral Hunter. Phase 1 complete. Beginning Phase 2 at 0600 tomorrow. The real show is about to begin. 3 months after Earth's withdrawal from the Galactic Council, the effects rippled through the galaxy like waves after a stone dropped in still water. On the massive space station that served as the Council headquarters, Trade Minister Kelvax hurried through the corridors, a datapad clutched tightly in his four-fingered hand. His normally neat appearance was disheveled, and the gray spots on his blue skin had darkened with stress. He burst into the private chamber where Grand Arbiter Zolmek was meeting with several senior council members. All conversation stopped as they turned to look at the interruption. Forgive me, Grand Arbiter, Kelvax said, his voice shaking, but the economic projections can't wait. The situation is worse than we predicted. Zolmek's four eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of irritation. The humans have only been gone 3 months. How bad could it be? Kelvax placed his datapad on the table, and a holographic display appeared above it. Charts and graphs hovered in the air, all trending downward. Medical technology supplies are down 62%. Agricultural production has fallen 41% in council space. 7 member worlds are reporting food shortages. The Nexus Trading Hub has lost 30% of its business. He paused for breath. And 17 minor races have requested formal trade agreements with Earth outside of council oversight. High Chancellor Krelnar of the Vraxian Empire slammed his fist on the table. This is ridiculous. How could the loss of one primitive species cause such disruption? Because, Kelvax replied carefully, we never realized how much we had come to rely on human innovation. They provided products and solutions the rest of us had stopped developing ourselves. Zolmek leaned forward. The humans were supposed to crawl back by now, begging to rejoin. What are they doing instead? On Neptune, the 8th planet in Earth's solar system, Dr. Alan Bennett led a group of council observers through a massive facility that had been hidden for decades. The alien visitors looked around in astonishment at the enormous shipyard carved into Neptune's largest moon, Triton. As you can see, Dr. Bennett explained, Earth has maintained independent technological development throughout our time in the Council. This is just one of 12 such facilities in our solar system. The lead observer, a reptilian alien named Drex, seemed unable to process what he was seeing. These ships, they're far more advanced than anything you've shared with the Council. Doctor, Bennett nodded. Council regulations required us to share all technological advancements. We complied with the technologies we chose to register. These remained classified. In the center of the shipyard floated a vessel unlike anything the observers had seen before. Sleek and powerful, it hummed with energy that their scanners couldn't even identify. The USS Defiant, Dr. Bennett said with pride. Our newest prototype. Captain Klein will demonstrate its capabilities for you today. Inside the bridge of the Defiant, Captain Margaret Klein watched the visitors through the ship's monitors. Are we cleared for demonstration control? Affirmative, Captain, came the reply. President Mason has authorized full capabilities demonstration. Margaret smiled. Excellent. Prepare for FTL jump. One of her officers looked up in surprise. Here in the solar system, Captain, Council regulations prohibit. We're not in the Council anymore, Lieutenant, Margaret reminded him. Initiate the jump. Outside, the observers watched in astonishment as the Defiant seemed to stretch for a split second, then vanished in a flash of light that wasn't quite visible to most species' eyes. Dr. Bennett checked his watch. Captain, Klein will now travel to Alpha Centauri and back. Total round-trip time, approximately 8 minutes. Drex shook his head in disbelief. That's impossible. The fastest Council ships would take at least 2 days for that journey. Dr. Bennett simply smiled. As I said, we've been developing independently. In Earth's intelligence headquarters, Samuel Rodriguez reviewed reports from across the galaxy. As Earth's chief intelligence officer, he had overseen the most extensive espionage network humans had ever created, a network the Council never suspected existed. His assistant entered the room with a fresh data pad. "Sir, the activation of the stealth monitoring network is complete. We're receiving data from all 1,147 stations across Council space." Samuel nodded. "Any detection by Council security?" "None, sir. The quantum entanglement communication system is working perfectly. They can't detect signals they don't know to look for." On a massive screen covering one wall, points of light represented each hidden monitoring station. They formed a web throughout Council territory, listening, watching, and gathering intelligence that would give Earth unprecedented insight into Council activities. "Begin compiling the comprehensive intelligence report for President Mason," Samuel ordered. "Focus on military movements, economic vulnerabilities, and potential allies." Back in the Council chambers, an emergency session had been called. Representatives from all 200 member species gathered as Grand Arbiter Zolmek took the central podium. "Fellow Council members," he began solemnly, "it has become clear that the human withdrawal was not an emotional response as we first believed. New intelligence suggests it was a calculated move years in the planning." The chamber filled with murmurs of surprise and concern. Earlier today, human officials revealed technologies far beyond what they shared with the Council. Their FTL capabilities alone appeared to be at least 15 generations ahead of our most advanced systems. On a side screen, footage from the Neptune demonstration played. The Council representatives watched in stunned silence as the Defiant disappeared and reappeared, completing in minutes a journey their ships required days to make. Furthermore, Zolmek continued, 17 former Council races have entered direct negotiations with Earth. 5 have already signed independent treaties. High Chancellor Krelnar stood up, his posture rigid with anger. "This cannot stand. The humans are deliberately undermining the Council's authority. I propose immediate sanctions against Earth and any world that allies with them." From her seat, Shinlara of the Aurelian delegation spoke up. "With respect, High Chancellor, how exactly would we enforce such sanctions? We can barely manage our own supply chains now that human goods have disappeared from our markets. And if their military technology is as advanced as it appears, do we really wish to provoke them?" The Council chamber erupted in heated debate. Some representatives demanded action against Earth, while others cautioned restraint. Through it all, Grand Arbiter Zolmek sat silently, his 4 eyes watching the chaos unfold. Later that evening, in the privacy of his quarters, Zolmek received a secure transmission. The face of President Olivia Mason appeared on his screen. "Grand Arbiter," she said calmly. "I trust today's technology demonstration was informative." Zolmek's skin paled slightly. "Most impressive, President Mason. Perhaps we should discuss terms for Earth's return to the Council. We could offer certain concessions." President Mason smiled. "That's not why I'm calling. I simply wanted to inform you that the Vraxians are planning to attack our outer colonies again. When they do, we will respond. I wouldn't want the Council caught in the crossfire." Before Zolmek could respond, the transmission ended, leaving him staring at a blank screen, wondering how humans had gone from galactic newcomers to a force that could threaten the established order in just 50 short years. Red alert sirens wailed throughout the human colony on Europa Junction, a strategic outpost near the former border between Earth and Vraxian space. Families rushed to shelters as defense systems activated. In orbit above the colony, 12 Vraxian warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel, weapons already charging. "This is Commander Vextor of the Vraxian Imperial Fleet," boomed a message across all communication channels. "Your colony is in violation of Vraxian territory claims. Surrender immediately or face destruction. Inside Europa Junction's defense center." The colonial governor looked worried. "They've brought their new dreadnought. We can't fight that many ships." The communication officer's console lit up. "Governor, we're receiving a transmission from Earth Defense Command. Admiral John Hunter's face appeared on the main screen. "Governor Chen, hold your position. Help is already on the way." Just as the governor was about to respond, the sensor operator called out in surprise. "Multiple FTL signatures detected. Ships dropping into normal space directly behind the Vraxian fleet." Outside, space itself seemed to ripple as 7 Earth vessels appeared. They were unlike any ships humans had publicly used before. Sleek, dark, and moving with impossible speed. At their center was the USS Defiant, commanded by Captain Margaret Klein. "Vraxian vessels, this is Captain Klein of Earth Defense Forces. You are engaging in an act of war against a human colony. Power down your weapons and withdraw immediately." On the bridge of the Vraxian dreadnought, Commander Vextor laughed. "7 ships against our fleet? The humans have gone mad." He turned to his weapons officer. "Target their lead vessel and fire when ready." The massive dreadnought's main cannon glowed as it prepared to fire. But before it could release its energy, the Defiant and its escort ships moved in a coordinated pattern that seemed to defy the laws of physics. One moment they were in the Vraxian sights, the next they had repositioned to surround the alien fleet. "What just happened?" demanded Vextor. "How did they move so fast?" His tactical officer looked up from his console, fear in his eyes. "Sir, they're using some kind of localized FTL jumps. Our targeting systems can't lock on." Captain Klein's voice came through again. "This is your final warning. Withdraw, or we will be forced to defend ourselves." Commander Vexator slammed his fist on his command chair. "Fire all weapons, target their colony if you can't hit their ships." The Vraxian vessels unleashed a barrage of energy weapons and missiles toward both the human ships and the colony below. But something unexpected happened. The attacks simply stopped. Energy beams froze in space. Missiles halted mid-flight, trapped in shimmering fields of blue light. "Containment fields engaged, Captain," reported the Defiant's tactical officer. "All enemy fire successfully neutralized." Captain Klein nodded. "Return fire. Disable their engines and weapons only." The Earth ships fired precise beams of energy that sliced through the Vraxian vessel's shields as if they weren't there. Within moments, 10 of the 12 enemy ships floated powerless in space. Only the dreadnought and 1 cruiser remained operational. On the Defiant's bridge, Captain Klein received a new communication. "Captain, Admiral Hunter authorizes deployment of boarding teams. Colonel Martinez is standing by." "Acknowledged," Klein replied. "Tell the Colonel his target is the dreadnought. We want their command codes and navigation data intact." In the dreadnought's command center, panic had replaced confidence. Commander Vextor watched helplessly as his mighty fleet was disabled by a handful of human ships using technology his people had never seen before. "Sir, we're detecting transport signatures inside the ship," called out a junior officer. "They're boarding us." Colonel Frank Martinez and his Special Forces team materialized in the dreadnought's main corridor. Wearing advanced combat suits that made them look more machine than human, they moved with precision through the Vraxian vessel. "Remember," Martinez told his team through their secure comm channel, "non-lethal takedowns only. We need prisoners and intact systems." The team encountered minimal resistance. Most Vraxian crew surrendered as soon as they saw the humans. Those who fought discovered that their weapons were ineffective against the humans' shield technology. Within 20 minutes, Martinez reached the bridge and found Commander Vextor sitting in his command chair, alone. The rest of the bridge crew had fled. "Commander Vexator," Martinez said, his voice amplified by his helmet speakers. "Your ship is under Earth control now." Vexator looked up, his face a mixture of fear and disbelief. "How? How did you defeat us so easily?" The council said. Humans were technologically inferior. Martinez didn't answer. Instead, he signaled his team to secure the commander and begin downloading the ship's database. Back on Earth, in the presidential situation room, Olivia Mason watched the battle footage with her advisors. The entire engagement had lasted less than 15 minutes. "Admiral Hunter's strategy worked perfectly," said Gregory Nash, the Secretary of Defense. "The Vraxians never suspected we had this level of capability." President Mason nodded. And the intelligence gathered? Samuel Rodriguez, the chief intelligence officer, smiled for the first time in weeks. Colonel Martinez has secured their command, codes, fleet deployments, and, most importantly, evidence that the Vraxian High Command ordered the attack on New Montana. The files show the Council was given this evidence but chose to ignore it. Make sure that evidence is leaked to every Council world, the President ordered. Let them see how their leadership has lied to them. On the Galactic Council station, chaos reigned. News of the Vraxian defeat spread rapidly, along with video footage of the battle. Representatives demanded explanations from Grand Arbiter Zolmek, who had no answers to give. "How could they have such advanced technology?" shouted one representative. "You told us humans were barely capable of interstellar travel without our guidance." Zolmek tried to maintain order, but the chamber was in an uproar. On his private communication channel, an urgent message appeared from High Chancellor Krell Nar of the Vraxian Empire. "The humans have captured our newest dreadnought," Krell Nar hissed. "You promised the Council would back us if Earth retaliated. Where is your support?" Before Zolmek could respond, another message came in, this one on all channels, broadcasting. Throughout the Council chamber, Trade Minister Kelvax appeared on the screens, but not from his office. He stood in what appeared to be an Earth facility. "Esteemed representatives," Kelvax began, "I have defected to Earth. The corruption in Council leadership can no longer be tolerated. I have provided human authorities with evidence of bribes, secret deals, and deliberate suppression of human worlds. This information will be made public within the hour." The Council chamber erupted in fresh chaos. Several representatives rushed to private communication units, desperate to contact their governments. In a quiet corner of the chamber, Shinlara of the Aurelian delegation watched with satisfaction. Her long game was finally paying off. She activated her secure communicator and sent a brief message to Patricia Summers on Earth. "The Council is fracturing. Phase 4 is complete, ready for Phase 5. 1 year after Earth's withdrawal from the Galactic Council, the solar system looked very different. A massive space station orbited the moon, its gleaming hull catching the sunlight as it rotated. Ships from 17 different alien species came and went freely, their designs varied and colorful against the blackness of space. This was Luna Base, headquarters of the newly formed Terran Cooperative. Inside its central chamber, representatives from Earth and its new allies gathered around a circular table. Unlike the tiered seating of the Galactic Council, here everyone sat at the same level. President Olivia Mason entered the room, and the gathered aliens stood in respect. Some had tentacles instead of arms, others had scales or feathers, but all showed genuine courtesy rather than the forced politeness humans had received in the Council. "Friends," President Mason said warmly, "today marks 1 year since Earth chose independence. Look how far we've come." On the main display, statistics and images appeared. Trade between cooperative members had increased 340%. Scientific breakthroughs in medicine, agriculture, and clean energy had improved life on all member worlds. Military cooperation had reduced piracy by 87% in former disputed territories. Shinlara, now the official Aurelian representative to the cooperative, spoke next. "My people have prospered more in 1 year of honest partnership with Earth than in 2 centuries under Council rule. We are proud to stand with humanity." The meeting continued with reports and planning, but was interrupted when Patricia Summers entered and whispered something to President Mason. The president's eyebrows rose in surprise. "It seems," she announced to the gathered representatives, "that the Galactic Council has officially requested to reopen diplomatic communications with Earth." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some sounded pleased, others suspicious. "What do they want?" asked one of the alien representatives, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly. "To negotiate," Patricia replied. "Their economy is still in shambles. Over 30 more worlds have applied to join our cooperative. The Council's authority is crumbling." President Mason thought for a moment. "We should hear what they have to say. Daniel, would you be willing to lead these negotiations?" Daniel Wright, who had been sitting quietly at the table, looked surprised. "Me, Madam President? After I was the one who delivered our withdrawal?" "Exactly. she said with a smile. You were there at the end of our old relationship. You should be there at the beginning of whatever comes next. On the neutral diplomatic station in the Tau Ceti system, Daniel Wright waited in a meeting room. He wore a simple but elegant uniform with the Terran Cooperative emblem, a stylized Earth with 17 stars surrounding it. The door slid open, and Grand Arbiter Zolmek entered. The alien leader looked older, the gray of his skin now dull and his posture less proud than Daniel remembered. Ambassador Wright, he said, his voice formal. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. Daniel nodded. Grand Arbiter, please sit. As they sat across from each other, Daniel couldn't help but notice how different this felt from their previous encounters. Before, Zolmek had always looked down at him, literally and figuratively. Now they met as equals. The Council has authorized me to discuss terms for renewed relations with Earth, Zolmek began. We are prepared to offer special status and exemptions from certain regulations. Daniel smiled slightly. I'm afraid you misunderstand the purpose of this meeting, Grand Arbiter. Earth isn't looking to rejoin the Council, certainly not on terms decided by the Council alone. Zolmek's four eyes blinked in confusion. Then what do you want? A complete restructuring of galactic governance, Daniel said simply. No more tiered membership based on species age. No more special privileges for founding races. Equal representation for all. That's impossible, Zolmek protested. The founding species would never agree. Then they'll find themselves increasingly isolated, Daniel replied calmly. The Terran Cooperative already includes worlds from 17 species. 30 more have applied to join. Our combined fleet now equals the Council's. Our economy is growing while yours contracts. He leaned forward. The old ways are ending, Grand Arbiter. You can be part of shaping what comes next, or you can resist and be left behind. Zolmek was silent for a long time. Finally, he asked, how did this happen? 1 year ago, humans were just another minor species in the galaxy. Daniel shook his head. No, we weren't. You just chose to see us that way. Humanity has always adapted quickly, learned rapidly, and prepared for both the best and worst possibilities. When you treated us as lesser beings, we didn't complain. We planned. Back on Luna Base, President Mason met with Patricia Summers and Admiral Hunter as they awaited news from the negotiations. Do you think the Council will accept our terms? Patricia asked. Admiral Hunter shrugged. They don't have much choice. After we defeated the Vraxian fleet so easily, none of their military leaders want to challenge us. And with Kelvax providing evidence of their corruption, many Council worlds are demanding reform anyway. Speaking of Kelvax, the President said, his economic team has finished their analysis. If the Council refuses our terms, another 40 worlds are likely to leave and join us within 2 years. Patricia smiled. And Sinlara's intelligence network confirms that the Vraxian Empire is facing internal rebellion. High Chancellor Krelnar has lost the support of 3 major house clans after his military failure. Their conversation was interrupted by a message from Daniel. His holographic image appeared in the center of the room, his expression satisfied. Madam President, the Grand Arbiter has agreed to present our terms to the full Council. He believes they will accept, though not without significant debate. President Mason nodded. Excellent work, Daniel. What was the turning point? I showed him our latest technological breakthrough, Daniel replied. Dr. Bennett's team has developed an energy source that produces 10 times the output of anything the Council races have. When I explained it could be shared with all species under our new cooperative model, he realized the balance of power has shifted permanently, finished Admiral Hunter. 1 month later, representatives from all spacefaring species gathered, on Earth itself. The historic meeting took place in the rebuilt United Nations headquarters in New York, now expanded to accommodate alien visitors of all shapes and sizes. Grand Arbiter Zolmek and President Mason stood side by side on the stage, a symbolic gesture of the new relationship forming between old powers and new. Today we signed the Sol Accords, President Mason announced to the assembled delegates and the billions watching the broadcast across the galaxy. A new framework for galactic cooperation based on equality, mutual respect, and shared progress. Zolmec stepped forward. For too long, the council maintained order through hierarchy and tradition. We believed this was the only way. Humanity has shown us another path, one where innovation and adaptation are valued over age and status. As the two leaders signed the historic document, applause erupted throughout the hall. Species that had been enemies for centuries now stood together, united in a new vision for the galaxy. In the audience, Daniel Wright sat next to Shinlara. "I never thought I'd see this day," he said quietly. The Aurelian smiled. "This was always the plan, my friend. We needed a species with the right combination of adaptability, determination, and moral compass to challenge the old order. We found that in humanity." "You used us?" Daniel asked, surprised. "No," Shinlara corrected. "We believed in you. There's a difference. Now look what you've accomplished in just 1 year." Daniel looked around at the representatives of dozens of species, all talking excitedly about the future. Earth, once considered a backwater world of little importance, had transformed galactic society by simply refusing to accept its assigned place. "Sometimes," he mused, "you have to step away from the table to be invited back as an equal."